An NBC News reporter was arrested for stalking a jury in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial as jury deliberations now go into their fourth day. Also, defense attorneys for the three white men accused of murdering Ahmaud Arbery have each rested their cases. Travis McMichael, his father Greg, and William Rowdy Bryant were all charged in the killing of Arbery, whom they had pursued him in their pickup trucks. And Judge Timothy Walmsley released the jury until Monday, when they're expected to hear closing arguments. The nearly all-white jury could begin deliberations Monday afternoon. Lawyers for Greg McMichael and Bryant did not call any witnesses in their defense. Travis McMichael concluded 2 days on the stand, testifying in his own defense, which lead prosecutor Linda Dunikowski cross-examined him on Thursday. Also this morning, Malcolm X, the icon, was born in Omaha, Nebraska, and we will talk with one of the NMPA's premier publishers who can walk us through Malcolm's life growing up in the bluegrass state. We also speak with Barrington Salmon, who writes for the NMPA and The Final Call. And of course, from the Muslim Journal, we have Aisha. I was going to say Aisha Muhammad again. Aisha, you got to come on the show, Aisha. I know you're watching. You got to come on the show because I keep saying Aisha Muhammad instead of Katrina Hamilton, who we are always grateful to have. Dr. Chavis is traveling this morning, but welcome to another edition of the National Newspaper Publicists Association's Let It Be Known. Our first topic this morning is an NBC News reporter. In that situation, a man by the name of Jim Morrison allegedly ran a red light chasing the juror bus, which is illegal during the trial. The judge has subsequently banned MSNBC from the building for the duration of deliberations in this trial. The judge, Bruce Schroeder, he called both sides and Kyle Rittenhouse into his chambers before emerging to announce the incident. The judge said the matter is under further investigation at this point. He said the media had asked questions about it, and that's the latest that he has, that the journalist was ticketed for violating a traffic control signal. NBC News released a statement later and said that a freelancer received a traffic citation. And while the traffic violation took place near the jury van, the freelancer never contacted or intended to contact the jurors during deliberations, and he never photographed or intended to photograph them. They said they regret the incident and will fully cooperate with the authorities. Also in the news this morning, Kevin Stitt, governor of Oklahoma, has issued a last-minute decision to commute the death sentence of Julius Jones, a condemned inmate whom Kim Kardashian and others had advocated for clemency. After prayerful consideration, Stitt said, and reviewing materials presented by all sides of this case, he says, I have determined to commute Julius Jones' sentence to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In a news release, he said this was the right thing to do. Kardashian had joined the Joneses family for months in calling on the governor to commute the sentence, noting that evidence appears to point to his innocence. The governor's decision came only hours before Jones faced a 4 p.m. execution. He had sat on death row for more than 20 years after a jury convicted him of the 1999 murder of an Oklahoma City businessman. His attorneys filed an emergency request to stop the execution. They asserted that the state's lethal injection procedure posed a serious and substantial risk of severe suffering and pain. They noted the October execution of John Grant, whom they said convulsed and vomited as the state put him to death. Earlier, the Oklahoma's Pardon and Parole Board voted 3-1 to recommend that the governor commute Jones's sentence. So it was really interesting that it took so long for the governor, right up to the last hour, to issue this commutation. But fortunately for the Jones family, this is true, that he lives to fight another day. Well, as we reported yesterday, the big news, Malcolm X, the two men who was convicted 56 years ago of killing Malcolm X, was exonerated, officially done yesterday in New York. This morning, we're going to talk about Malcolm X's history with the Black press. And Malcolm X actually was born in Omaha. Our guest this morning is Omaha Star Publisher Terry Sanders, journalist Barrington Salmon. Also joining us again, as always, is Katrina Hamilton and the Oklahoma Star archivist Jennifer Keys. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, and it is great to see each of you. And I'm going to start with you, Terry Sanders, as we talk about Malcolm X. It's a little known fact, and I say little known because a lot of people don't think of Malcolm X being born in Omaha.
That's right. Malcolm X was born here in Omaha, Nebraska. His birthplace home has been established by the Malcolm X Foundation. They are raising funds there. They have replicated the house where Malcolm was born, and it's like a greenhouse, but I mean, small does not begin to describe where the little family lived, but it is a historically designated place here in the state of Nebraska. It has a historic marker, and Malcolm's family fled Omaha because I believe the Klan burned a cross in their yard. But Malcolm returned to Omaha several times. Here at the newspaper, I have photographs of Malcolm with local activists representing how he interacted here. But yes, Omaha, Nebraska is on the map. Malcolm X was born here. And as you said, not many people know that. Not many people even think that there are Black people in Nebraska. Guess what? There are lots of us.
How about that? And I understand that they did name a park after Malcolm X.
Yes, one of the parks was renamed in the city, named after Malcolm. So there are several markers and things around to show that Malcolm was here, and we consider him a son of our city and are very proud about that. And of course, here at the Omaha Star and in our archives, we have many items related to Malcolm, and we have photographs. As I said, there's a picture of he and Charlie Washington, who was a local activist here. That's his mom. And it's just amazing. His wife visited. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. And when we had our regional conference, his wife visited and we had our picnic at his birth site.
Yeah, and we're going to get more into Malcolm's life. Barrington, yesterday we had a very, led by Katrina, a very robust conversation about the situation that unfolded yesterday, to the surprise of many. I mean, it seemed to have come out of the blue that the authorities have finally exonerated these two men accused of killing him after all these years. What was your initial reaction, Barrington, when you heard the news?
I was glad that it happened. Very saddened that it took 56 years for this to occur. But I think that my prevailing sentiment was just how rotten and nasty and vile this criminal so-called justice system is. We should remember that at the time of Malcolm's death, so many in law enforcement, the FBI, the New York City Police Department, they were surveilling him, they were wiretapping him and that type of stuff. And on the day that he dies, there's no police presence in the ballroom. So
unbelievable.
Even
right?
Even as we celebrate, we need to be castigating and holding these people responsible, because all it does is show you just how nasty and dirty this system is and how they use it to oppress and murder us.
Yeah, and Katrina, and our viewers brought this up yesterday too, and I know you had a whole lot more to say on this topic about the men that were exonerated and Malcolm X himself. But one of the things that our viewers brought up, and I saw in the chat continually, was the complicity of the FBI, particularly Mr. Hoover?
Most definitely. And, I think, unfortunately, when you say COINTELPRO and you talk about the wiretappings and the activities of this government, folks get up in arms, right? Because now they're scared. I'm no longer going to be able to be comfortable. I can't get, we can't say that. That's like a taboo word, right? I think we say the N word more than we do COINTELPRO and talk about, the reality of how the government has destroyed a lot of our leaders, including Malcolm X, right? And so when you look at Malcolm X's history and you look at all the work that he did, and then you bring it up towards his death, like everyone said earlier, it's just ironic that no one's there. And unfortunately, I want to kind of, well, we talked about yesterday too how his family was there. This is something that we talk about Malcolm X, but we really don't talk about the trauma that his family experienced. His children witnessed him being murdered. His wife witnessed him being murdered, and so this is the government, and I'm so sorry to say this, but it's true. We owe this family so much. And the government is not going to say that they're involved, because if they do that, then there's going to be so much money that needs to be forked over towards this family. So they have to continually allow folks to bring up this monolithic, view of the nation killed him. There were folks in the
Mhm.
nation that just hated him because he went against Elijah Muhammad. There are people to this day who are upset about that, including myself. And then there's the notion that, oh, well, if people did do it, then they transitioned, they changed. Let's not allow our history to be, muddled or continually muddled. We have to start speaking the truth. This is our truth.
Yeah, and one of the things we know about Malcolm X, one of the many things that we've heard about Malcolm X was his love of the Black press. Terry Sanders, he actually started what became Muhammad Speaks.
Yes.
How closely, Terry, did the people of Omaha, particularly the Black people of Omaha, follow Malcolm X, his life after, obviously he left as a baby, he left Omaha, but how closely did they follow him, and did people understand his love of newspapers, Black newspapers?
Yes, people did. And it's interesting that you say that he left as a baby, but how did we follow him?
Mhm.
Um, this year, on his birthday, we at the Omaha Star celebrated. We had cake. He would we invited the public in to the newspaper office. We in the background played his speeches all day. There were people that came in that knew of him, that were part of the Black Panther Party here in Omaha. There are still Muslim followers in our city. I remember as a child, when it was Malcolm X's birthday, all the Black students didn't go to school that day. That was our way of celebrating. I know a prominent person in our community worked at a corporation, and he went to them and said, he wanted off. This was Malcolm X's birthday. They told him no, and he walked out. And I mean, he was getting paid good money and had a wife and two daughters at home. And he said, oh, no, I'm not going to stand for that. So that shows you how we feel and felt about Malcolm being a son of Omaha, Nebraska. And I would invite anyone to come to Omaha. People have come here to visit and they say, well, we heard Malcolm was born here. Yes, he was. There is a foundation established. They have historical pictures of Malcolm at that foundation. There is a building. There is the birth site home that was built by an artist. And he took a lot of time getting it right. So, yeah, we in Omaha are very proud, and we don't take it lightly that he was born here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Barrington, you've written, Katrina writes for the Muslim Journal. I know I was about to call you Aisha again. Aisha is the publisher of
She
the,
needs to be on here.
she needs to be on here. Barrington, you've written and do writing for the Final Call. Can you give us a sense, Barrington, of the feeling there among those that you speak to at the Final Call of this situation? Because I know that this is, it's really been something, and Katrina has really spelled it out, and throughout all of the Muslim community, it's been a traumatizing thing, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, I can't say that I haven't spoken to any of my colleagues at the Final Call about this, but this is a conversation that I've been having over the last few days, and before, because when the documentary came out about who killed Malcolm X, it stirred a lot of curiosity in some places, and other feelings. And for me, it was striking listening to some of the brothers who were who either are or were in the nation, and the animus some of them still had for him. And it that struck me. I don't know why, because it seemed to me that after all this time that emotions would have cooled. But for me, it's man, to me, this is like step one of what should be a multi-step process, because until the public, until Black people demand that this government and its instruments, FBI and all of these other police agencies, are held to account. I mean, they basically skated the whole time. They were implicated in Malcolm's murder, implicated in the murder of so many other people, and but there's no accountability, there's no responsibility. They want to make you believe that we killed ourselves, or that some rogue Black people killed our leaders, when they have been instrumental in doing that. They have not dismantled COINTELPRO, right? As illustrated by the Black identity extremist pamphlet report that the FBI put out in 2017, 2018. They are targeting us more than they're targeting these white boys running around with AR-15s and other guns and that type of stuff, trying to kill people that don't look like them. Mm-hmm. They essentially are the enemy, bruh. They're the enemy.
And to go, let me just throw this out for you guys too, Terry and Katrina. Just a little passage that I was reading about Malcolm X that kind of fits what Barrington is saying, and it fits the narrative of what I was saying too about his love of Black media. And here's why. It says ultimately, this is a passage I'm reading from a Black Press Research archive collection. It says ultimately Malcolm X understood that undemocratically controlled, highly centralized media needed to be directly challenged. He and the paper he started sustained a relentless pursuit of dominant media narratives, identifying its collusions with state and corporate power, and shedding light on the silenced aspirations of millions. So that complicity, again, it also, we talked about the complicity of some of our viewers point out, of the government, but also of the media, Terry.
And so the Omaha Star has been around 83 years, founded in 1938 by Mrs. Mildred D. Brown. I want to point something out, though. Now I watched the documentary again yesterday, just because this is a hot item in the news. I'm a news person, and I'm like, okay, let me look at this again. And yeah, you can clearly see what went on. But not only did this go on there, right here in Omaha, Nebraska, there was a case where 2 men were implicated in planting a bomb, and they went to jail. David Rice and Ed Poindexter. Ed Poindexter, we have been trying, we, the community, and others, have been trying to get him out of jail for years. They didn't do it. They set them up. And David, and he changed his name to Mondo, died in prison. And his ashes were taken to Africa, where he requested to go. But I think this is great that those gentlemen were exonerated. I'm sorry that one of them was deceased when this happened. But I think that it is our responsibility as the Black press to bring it up and bring it up and bring it up again and talk about, yes, talk about Malcolm, but let's also talk about the other people who have been wrongfully treated by the government, and by government, I mean police and everybody else, and have been incarcerated for years. You know, it is not fair that somebody is 83 years old and now they said, oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what they're saying. Oops.
Yeah.
That is not an oops. That man has lost his whole life. He did not see any of his family. And I think that while the government is like, made a mistake, oh well, we can't keep letting that go on. And the Black press wide needs to come out and say, no, this is not an oops. Where else is this going on? And let's rally our people. That's why we still have newspapers. People say to me all the time, well, you know, the newspapers are dying out. I said, not community newspapers and not Black newspapers, because many times that's the only place where the truth is told. And so here at the Omaha Star, we always say that we're a community paper and we share the good news. This is good news that this gentleman was exonerated. But hey, there is some more good news that we need to be getting in behind and sharing with our readers and encouraging people to, you know, look into this. And from what I saw, these were not, there were some white lawyers involved. There were some Jewish lawyers involved. Just recently, we did a tour with some ladies from the Jewish community. And, you know, they have been oppressed as well. But they feel a kinship with us many times and come to our aid, and they have the money that we don't. But irregardless, we need to tell it again, keep telling the story. Both Katrina and Barrington, keep it up. Yeah. Share your articles, send them to me so I can republish them.
All right.
Because
I'll do that.
Please do. Because I don't have my finger in everything. Obviously, I'm in Omaha, Nebraska, right? But regardless, I try to watch what goes on nationally and elevate the knowledge of the people here in my city, as well as our paper is distributed to people who used to live here. So it's around the country. And we are seeking to increase that distribution because you know what? This is not over. Black papers are not done.
We're in a war. We're in a war.
We're in a war. And hey, we're in it to win it.
Yeah.
Not just fight.
We have to, for our children.
Yes. Our grandchildren, everybody.
Yeah.
We also have to make sure that when we are telling our story, that we're not fearful of telling the truth. And then we're also making sure that we're engaging with the platform of what's happening right now. So a lot of our children are into technology. Yes. A lot of people will read the news on the phone or on the website. So we have to make sure that when we're doing these printed articles, that we're also beefing up our website presence.
Yes. And when you say that, Katrina, here at the Omaha Star, I've been the publisher for a year now. And I have started what we call Omaha Star 3.0. Do a lot of Facebook Lives, attend a lot of events. We have our newspaper available digitally. We have a working website And I say that, but many times our websites are so old. And even in our community, the Black community, which is in North Omaha, we are now conducting a study for broadband to say that, it's really slow over here. What are we going to do about it? And with the new infrastructure bill that has come up addressing broadband, we need to make sure our communities are up to snuff and just as fast as everybody else.
Yeah.
Our children, when it was the pandemic and children were not in school, a foundation purchased iPads for every school child here. And I had kind of forgotten about that. I was at a school speaking about the Omaha Star and Mildred Brown, and we have a QR code for our subscription. I put it on the back of a sweatshirt yesterday, but I have it on the newspaper so that people can just scan it, go right to where you can subscribe, pay for it, and go on. And the teacher said to the children, well, pull out your iPads and scan it. I was like, oh, I forgot. You all have iPads. And the kids were like, well, if I hit this, will my mama pay for it? No, don't hit it. Just go to it and see that it's there. But I think that we need to keep up. And QR codes are easy. We now have a printing service here in the paper, so that brings more people to us. And, QR codes is something that we offer not only locally, but nationwide. So if you all need a QR code for your publication, let me know.
We're
And
gonna
there
need
is a way to track it so that we can see how many people uploaded it and on what day. And as you said, Katrina, we have got to stay up to date, because if we become dinosaurs, where are they today? In 2021, dinosaurs are not here.
Terry, we're gonna need you to come to the Midwinter Training Conference, the NNPA's Midwinter Training Conference.
Let me know.
Bring this message January 19th to the 22nd.
I'll be there.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to a point about the families, both of these gentlemen and of Malcolm X. A couple of weeks ago, Dr. Chavis and I were in New York with Ilyasha Shabazz, Malcolm's middle daughter, and the resolve that she shows is amazing. I mean, obviously this hadn't come up, but just her being, you could tell that this is someone who is focused. And to your point, Terry, we all need to be focused, but also looking at a statement from Mr. Aziz, one of the gentlemen who was exonerated. He made this statement, and Katrina, I'd like for you to respond. He says, I do not need a court, prosecutors, or a piece of paper to tell me I am innocent. He said he added that his loved ones were finally seeing the truth that we all have known, officially recognized. And that statement, that part of the statement, Katrina, that his loved ones are finally seeing the truth, I can imagine that over the years that some doubt may have crept up within the family, and that could be very damaging, right?
Of course. And I have to say, especially to Brother Aziz, no matter how people in our community felt about this documentary, this brother, and I say young man when he was, convicted, he lost his life.
Yes.
He lost his life, his whole entire life. And so his faith is what saw him through. And so when you see this brother and you see him speaking, it's his faith, knowing that that translation of his statement is basically the Most High knows the truth. The Most High knows who killed Malcolm. The Most High knows that I was innocent and he carried me through all this way for a reason. But not all, our children and our maybe his spouse or his mate, they didn't have that, at that time. And it's hard. Think about the fact that his children grew up without him, and the only time they got a chance to see him was through visitations. And think about the trauma and, having to deal with Malcolm X. This brother was he made so many different transitions. He went from establishing the Malcolm's X, the Muhammad Speaks in 1960, to making Hajj and going to Ghana, all of these things that he did. And you killed him, Dad? So think about that. Think about how that plays on his psyche. So, you know, it's beautiful to see that his family, they have also forgiven him. But this brother, you know, may God have mercy on him because, you know, we'll say that he's going to get his now. He's still here. God has him here for a reason. But, you know, it's his family. It's the Shabazz family. It's the King family. It's the Evers families. It's all of these families who are due not just monetary, but they're due reparations. We talked about this yesterday.
Mhm.
Reparations, we use that word too loosely. Nobody want no, well, we want our 40 acres, but we don't want no mule. A lot of us need therapy, and reparations comes in the form of intergenerational wealth and therapy. And first, give it to all of those families that you assassinated, or in this case, incarcerated wrongfully with this
Yeah.
brother.
And I know we're going a little overtime today. It is Friday, and the topic is Malcolm X. Uh, I wanted to bring this to light, Barrington, because it's one thing for a person to be found not guilty, right? It's a whole lot different than innocent, as we've come to know. Not guilty does not necessarily mean innocent. And in this case, the judge yesterday proclaimed not only that they were not guilty, but they were totally innocent. And one of the historians, Abdul Rahman Muhammad, he said, to hear the words come out of the judge's mouth, it absolutely took my breath away. The weight that lifted from Mr. Aziz's shoulders was enormous. Not guilty, innocent. He was innocent, not just not guilty, Barrington, but innocent. Can you speak to that?
Um, I think that what they've done, they've corrected a wrong very late, but they've done it. I wish that this was done a long time ago. I, the thing is that we shouldn't forget that this country has all of the resources that it needs. It could have done this very shortly after Malcolm had been assassinated, but for whatever reasons, they chose not to do it. They never pursued who the real killers were because they weren't interested. And so it's very bittersweet for me because I am grateful that both of these gentlemen have been found innocent, not guilty. But a lot of what it just brings out all of the things that is so wrong with this system, this beast that we're fighting against. And I just want to say that Greer reminded us that Malcolm X's father, Earl Little, was murdered by the Klan in, I think, 1931. He was a Garveyite. He was an outspoken preacher. And, of course, in those days, no black person was supposed to do or say anything. Don't be uppity. Don't be out of your place. And he was a proud black man. So the trauma, the intergenerational trauma that Katrina's talking about is profound. What killed Malcolm's father, they institutionalized his mother, right? Then they killed him. So the thing is that all of us should be in counseling. As Katrina said, we all should be in counseling because the trauma that we've been dealing with day to day and intergenerationally, if we don't begin to make those corrections, we're always just going to be around and about.
Yeah. And Terry Sanders, I'm going to throw it back to you as we start to close here. Publisher of the Omaha Star. Any other tidbits you want to add about Malcolm X, and even a closing thought on this whole situation?
As the brother said, to be found innocent, not guilty is one thing, but innocent means you didn't do it. And I think that is something that we need to keep in mind. And the man did lose his whole life. And the fact that counseling should be had by everybody, from the family, from the people who supported the family, from Malcolm's family, for both of the gentlemen's families. It's important. But I always like to say, as Jesse Jackson says, we got to keep hope alive. And in keeping hope alive, that is communicating the truth. And it's one thing for something to be true, but it's another thing to tell the truth. And we need to, in the Black press, tell the truth.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
major media tells us a lot of things, but it's up to us to tell the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a conversation that you hate for it to end, especially given the voices we have this morning. Terry Sanders of the Omaha Star, of course, Katrina Hamilton of the Muslim Journal, and Barrington Salmon of NMPA, and The Final Call. We really, really appreciate each of you. Monday, we have another very serious topic, and it's a surprising topic. It's guess who's scamming the Mississippi welfare system? You'll be surprised, and I'm going to drop one name just as a taste for you. Brett Favre of the the famous Brett Favre from the Green Bay Packers.
$1 million. $1 million.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Barrington wants to give away the whole show. That's okay.
Tell it, Barrington.
But we will talk about that. We're going to have two of our publishers from Mississippi, Jackie Hampton of the Mississippi Link and Deanna Tisdale of the Jackson Advocate, because it's Brett Favre and so many others. And we're not talking about just everyday folks. We're talking about superstars taking advantage of the state's welfare system. The NMPA's Midwinter Training Conference kicks off in January on the 19th. We'll be at the Diplomat Beach Resort in Hollywood, Florida, Terry Sanders. So we'll be there through the 22nd. The theme is the publishing industry, advancing the Black press of America, reaffirming, engaging, and empowering. Visit www.nmpa/events.com to register and reserve your hotel rooms today. In order to get the NMPA's discounted rate, hotel rooms must be reserved by December 12th. So remember, join us January 19th through the 23rd in beautiful, beautiful Hollywood, Florida. Advancing the Black press of America, reaffirming, engaging, and empowering is the theme. Our Black fact of the day: throughout his adult life, Malcolm X asserted that the Black press was the only outlet for people of color to voice our true plight. As chief minister of the Nation of Islam, he envisioned a protest-oriented paper that used stirring language to stage news stories within a narrative of racial justice. In 1960, he launched Mr. Muhammad Speaks, later named Muhammad Speaks, a tabloid-sized paper that included the speeches of Nation of Islam leadership and news coverage on Black communities. By Malcolm X's design, the staff was largely composed of progressive, professional Black journalists who were attracted to the level of journalistic freedom they had to cover stories without the hindrance of corporate sponsorship. By 1961, the paper was so popular that it became a national press, and by the mid-1960s, it had a weekly circulation in the 100,000s. Yet, despite its size, the paper maintained an aggressive commitment to community-based investigative journalists, making it a popular source of information in urban centers throughout the nation. The paper was so successful that sales revenue financed production, as well as a cadre of investigative journalists, editors, and bureau chiefs nationwide and around the world. We remember Malcolm X. Everybody stay safe. Have a great weekend, and we will definitely see you on Monday.